All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to talk about the ladies today, UFC 251, because there's two girl fights on the main event that are definitely worth talking about since my favorite female fighter ever is fighting. And then also I want to talk about the Paige Van Zandt fight because I think there's an interesting note there that I can weigh in on because I'm pretty sure that I'm right about the statement that I'm going to make about that particular matchup. Then I'm going to talk about some other stuff. I'll do my add-on, like I do, which I want to talk about like gang culture and how gang culture relates to what I'm looking at, in the world, or I guess really more through the box. Like the videos that I'm seeing of people protesting and people's reactions to said protests looks a hell of a lot like gang culture to me, and I'll run through that. And I will connect sociopathy to a lot of these things that I'm seeing and how certain solutions are worse than the fucking problem. So, anyway, we'll get there. So if you like the content, please subscribe and ring the bell, and that way you'll know when I upload, because I upload every day, and you'll be like, oh shit, Jesse on Fire uploaded. I'm gonna go talk shit to him, because people seem to want to talk shit to me lately. It's like the thing that I've been seeing lately in the comments every once in a while is like, your ego's getting in the way of your content. I'm like, oh yeah? Is it getting in the way? Jeez. I guess I should never say anything positive about myself. I should leave myself out of all these. That would be totally in line with my personality. Not. Okay? If I don't have a hype man and I'm just talking myself, I need to tell you, look, I'm really fucking good at things. Also, guess what this is representing? Guess what this is representing? My imaginary dick, okay? My imaginary dick. My real dick. Imaginary, real. Who knows? Maybe it's somewhere in there. Anyway, so let's talk about Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade, because goddamn, I just saw the UFC 251 countdown video, which I'm not going to include in here. I was going to, and then I realized I got a copyright thing last time I did something, anything UFC, they'll catch it instantly and they'll copyright it. Like they did the behind the fight, like they showed Jessica Andrade and they showed Rose Namajunas, they showed their two camps. I have literally never seen a behind the scenes like UFC countdown show where one fighter looked so much better in their prep than the other one. And I'm not just talking about like the skills. I'm talking like, it was literally like think of like the Rocky IV montage when you've got Dolph Lundgren, he's like into the machines and shit, and they're like shooting him up with juice, and he's like, and then you have Rocky. He's in the mountains and he's like got fucking logs on his back and he's walking through the snow, and both of them, it's like, wow, Rocky went rugged and this dude went high tech, but both of them are working equally hard. Unreal. I can't wait to see the conclusion of this movie. Okay, so this was not that, man. You have Rose and Pat Barry looking like they're getting ready to fight Dolph Lundgren. Literally, like they're so focused and so intense in theirs, and Rose is going so fucking hard, and they're like, all right, now let's go do Jessica Andrade, and she's like, la la loo, here's me walking my dog, and then like when she's training, she looks like she's going like 20%. I was like, what the fuck? Like literally, I can't express to you how confident I am that Rose is going to win this fight. Okay, Rose I thought was going to win anyway, but when I saw the training videos, I was like, dude, this is going to be, I challenge you guys to watch the UFC 251 countdown, the first one, or maybe it's like the behind the whatever, like the equivalent of the UFC 24/7 is, like 24/7 for boxing, the UFC version. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I watched the whole thing last night. I'm telling you, like anybody who watches that and is like, I think I got Andrade, I'm gonna be like, based on what? What the fuck could you have possibly seen on that video that made you think that she is going to beat Rose? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you watch the first fight, Rose was absolutely surgically picking Jessica apart. Like, that was one of the most dominant performances I have ever seen. If you've never watched that first fight, if you've just seen the slam where it's like, here's Jessica slamming Rose and breaking her head or, knocking her out, I would highly suggest that you give that first fight a run, because that was like the biggest reversal of fortune ever, because Rose was annihilating her. She looked Jessica looked so outmatched in that fight. It was unbelievable. It's the best I've seen a strawweight fighter look ever. Like, just absolutely surgical with her footwork and her strikes. Anytime Jessica like had even like a misstep, Rose tapped her. You know, like she was here and then like her timing was off, just tap tap, and then she'd be out. You know, I mean, Jessica, she couldn't do anything. And the only reason that she won is because, you know, Rose tried to do a fucking flying Kimura while she was about to get slammed. And yeah, I mean, it was a fluke thing. It won't happen again. And then, God, I mean, it's honestly like funny to watch, like funny to even think about. It's like Rose looks so focused, so fired up, and she's hungry. You know, Pat Barry said, he's like, now we're in the blue corner again. And, you know, apparently, I didn't even know that. Apparently that's the challenger's corner. But, you know, neither of them have the belt. But Rose, what Rose said, which was interesting, is she's like, if I, you know, as soon as I beat her again, then I'm still the champ. I love that way of looking at it, you know, because in all honesty, had she not lost to Jessica Andrade, she would be the champ. You know, Wei Li beat Jessica Andrade to win the belt. Wei Li beat Joanna, great. Rose beat Joanna handily twice. So that, I mean, if you don't get hung up on like the lineage of the belt, then that's a completely reasonable position to take, I guess. I mean, I think that Wei Li versus Rose fight is going to be a fucking monster. I cannot wait for that fight. Because like, I think a lot of people are going to pick, even though Rose, I think, is going to annihilate Jessica Andrade in this fight, I think a lot of people are going to pick Wei Li because Wei Li looks like a fucking animal. Like, Rose looks like a dainty, like, in shape, tiny girl. You know, like she's like, I mean, look, like, again, Rose is my favorite fighter because of her story. I know a lot of you guys came from Mixed Molly, so, you know, pointing you to the Rose Namajunas, the Journey video is probably a waste of my breath. I'm sure you guys have all watched it. And if you haven't, get the fuck on that immediately. That's my favorite one, actually. Probably my favorite one. What? Someone's dying of coronavirus. Should have worn a mask. Should have worn a mask. That's not a joke. That's a terrible fucking joke. Terrible joke. But there was a siren, so, you know, this is the first thing that came to mind. Anyway, but yeah, like that is maybe my favorite. I love all the Conor and Khabib shit. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. Fucking watch it if you haven't. But yeah, so, but she is like, you know, she shaves her head because she said that was one of my favorite things is like, when she shaved her head, they were like, so why'd you shave her head? And she's like, my hair was getting in my way at practice. It's like, jackpot. I like, winner. That's a fucking winner for me, right? Like this beautiful, beautiful, tiny girl who shaves her head because she said that her hair is getting in her way at practice. Now, I personally think that is not fully accurate. I mean, I think that I'm sure that her hair probably was getting in her way at practice. I think that there's more to it than that, right? Like if you've watched the Journey video, Mixed Molly touches on that she was the victim of the worst kind of abuse that you can be as a kid. And, well, I mean, I think it's the worst kind. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not trying to discount anyone's shit that they've gone through, but I think that, you know, shaving her head to make herself not feel like dolled up could be connected to that. Either way, she said that it was because her hair was getting in her way at practice, which is a fucking gangster. I love that shit. But, you know, look at her body. Like, she's like a small, hot, little, tight package girl, right? Wei Li is like Dolph Lundgren in fucking Rocky IV, right? She looks like a surgeon. She looks like someone made her in a fucking lab. They're like, we need to make the strongest, toughest 150 or 115 pound female fighter in the world. They're like, and so, you know, the Chinese fucking did a bunch of DNA mapping and they created Wei Li. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't look like a girl that I'm like, hey, Wei Li, why don't you throw on a dress and let's go see a movie or something? Netflix and chill? Probably not. She looks like she'd be like, I'd rather bench press you, Jesse on Fire. See if I can lift your body weight. You're like, okay. Let's do that instead. Anyway, yeah, I think that people are going to pick Wei Li for that reason, and I think they're going to be wrong. I think Rose is going to pick her apart. I think that Rose is a very special talent, and, you know, I think Wei Li is a boss, but I think Rose is going to pick her apart, and I'm very excited to see that fight. So I really hope I hope I'm right, because I also bet a lot of money on Rose to win this fight this weekend. But But yeah, okay, so that's that. Now, on the other fight, we got Paige VanZant versus, oh God, what's her name? It doesn't matter. You know what, honestly? It doesn't matter, okay? Because the point I'm going to make is this. So Paige said that this is her last fight in her contract. She's not signing a new contract. She's going to test free agency, okay? So when a fighter does that, right, they have one fight left on their contract. Now, UFC is mandated. They have to offer 3 fights a year or something like that. And so they have to offer her a fight. They have to offer her the ability to get out of her contract because, you know, she only has one fight left. Now, when a fighter is saying, like, she won't sign a new deal, she's going to test free agency, what is UFC going to try to do with that last fight? They're going to try to make sure she loses 100%. Okay. That's just business. That's just smart business. You don't want to give someone, like, if she's going to go test free agency, she wants to go to ONE or she wants to go to Bellator, whatever. Why would you give your competitors a more valuable version of a product that you built, right? Like, they built Paige VanZant, like, plain and simple. They marketed her. They got her in there. She, you know, trained with, I mean, like, UFC created Paige VanZant. So why would they want her to be able to take that show on the road and then take the value they created and then give it to, like, Bellator, right? So if she's not willing to sign a new contract with the UFC, then they're going to try to make her lose in her last fight, and probably lose embarrassingly, if I was going to guess. So, you know, this girl who she's fighting is a minus 800 favorite. I think that is probably because this girl is literally the worst possible matchup that they could give her without giving her, like, a title shot. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I think that they are very intentionally like, Paige has no chance against this girl. So here you go. Feed her to the lions, and then, yeah, go test free agency after you just got your head smashed in and then got submitted. Now, one thing I will say about Paige, she's a tough fucking broad, man. Like, she is tough. She's like a, you know, she's a decent fighter, but she is tough as nails, man. She really is. If you watch, like, a couple of those fights that she lost, she got her fucking ass kicked. Like, beaten, hurt, cut, bruised, fucked up. And she fought right through it. You know, like, if you don't respect Paige VanZant's gutsies, then you are watching a different, you haven't seen those fights then, actually. Like, bottom line, you just haven't seen them because she's gotten her fucking head beaten in and she just keeps going, dude. Like, there's no quitting that girl. So, yeah, you know, she got a fake rack and then she decided that being an Instagram model is more lucrative and easier than fighting. You know, I mean, dude, I'm not throwing stones at anybody who, you know, figures out a way to make money. Like, certainly not someone who's like, I'm a hot girl and people want to pay me to, like, use their fucking products on Instagram. Awesome. Good for you. I would do it if I was a girl. I mean, Jesus. I'm shocked that I'm not getting offers all the time right now with this, you know. Of course, I don't have however many fucking followers she has, but if I did, I would whore myself in 2 seconds. And I don't mean whore like as in she's a whore. I mean whore like I'll whore myself, like, for the brands. Yeah. But, yeah, that's pretty much that on Paige VanZant. So now let's move on to society. Let's talk about society, okay? So here's a point that I really want to make because I had this moment of clarity earlier because I was listening to this thing and they were talking about on colleges where now a lot of colleges are actually doing segregated dorms, like segregated by race. So it's like this dorm is for blacks only. And I'm like, what? Like, okay, listen, as a preface, I am not discounting any struggles of black people in this country, okay? I learned about the Jim Crow laws recently because I was like, what? I'm embarrassed. I honestly didn't know what they were, okay? Now I know, dude, we have a very fucked up history. I mean, it's just that simple. We do. Here's the thing, though. No one who's alive lived through them. And the whole entire point of what we're doing is we're trying to move away from that shit. Like, move into a world where, like, everyone's exactly, like, everyone has the same opportunities. Like, I'm going to interact with a black person exactly the same as I would interact with a white person. Like, that should be everyone's goal. I mean, if everyone's confused about that should be our goal, where everyone has equal opportunities. Everyone is judged based on their own, you know, merit, like, as an individual. If you think that is not the goal, then I would be very curious to hear what you think the goal is, right? So if that's the goal, how do we promote that? By segregating ourselves by race in college, where we're learning how we're going to engage in, like, the real world, okay? So the point I'm trying to make with that is sometimes you can acknowledge a problem and then your solution is going to make it worse. And if people are not able to analyze the solutions that they're attributing to problems that everyone knows exist, then we're going to end up in a place that's worse. I'm going to give you a perfect example, okay? So opioid crisis, right? So you have this, everyone, okay, opioid crisis, it's a crisis, okay? It's a crisis. People are getting hooked on pain meds, and then they're doing heroin, and then they're dying of fentanyl, okay? Right? Like, how many drug overdoses have you, basically every drug overdose that I've heard about in the last however many years, every time I look into it, fentanyl is what did it. Every time, okay? And I mean, I'm talking all the way, the reason I was thinking about this is because I'm watching this new Golden State Killer documentary on HBO, and you kind of know that the author of this book that the documentary is based off of is dead, right? And it's like she died, and they finished it off, and she basically was the catalyst for ending up, catching this guy. So I'm like, oh, how'd she die? I look it up last night, died of an overdose, fentanyl. And I'm like, another one. Mac Miller, Prince, her, Tom Petty, fucking everybody. Everybody died of fentanyl. And you think about that, and this keeps increasing. And so people are like, wow, the opioid crisis, it's out of control. You're like, okay, so what's changed? Why is it getting worse, right? If it was a problem before, why is it worse? Okay, so we know that fentanyl is the one that keeps killing everyone, right? Very crystal clear. Fentanyl is the most deadly one there is. So that use is going up. Why? Why are people using that more? And you're like, what can I connect to? What solutions have we implemented? Okay, we have an opioid crisis. All right, we need to limit the ability of people to get prescription pills. Like, make it basically impossible for people to get Norcos, Vicodin, same thing, oxycodone, OxyContin, all those things, like, also the same thing. But still, like, let's make it impossible for people to get these kind of lower grade opioids. Let's make it like impossible, where doctors, we hammer them if they prescribe these things in any regularity whatsoever and don't have a really, really good, reason for it, then we'll hammer these doctors and we'll take away their licenses. And so doctors are like, yeah, I'm not going to fucking prescribe that shit anymore. So what happens? Those pills, not around anymore, which means people who are used to getting those pills either through the doctor or they buy them off someone who gets them from the doctor at an inexpensive price, all of a sudden they can't get them there. So now they look around and they're like, oh yeah, no. So now it's $12 a pill. They're like, $12 a pill? Like, I take 6 of those a day. I can't fucking afford that. And they're like, all right, well, sorry, that's the market value now because doctors don't prescribe them anymore. So there's way less of them. Supply and demand. That's how the world fucking works. Okay. Well, guess what we learned? Fucking drug addict's gonna drug addict, right? The person who wants to get high, they're gonna get high. Okay. So by taking away the pills that are way safer, now they're like, all right, well, I'm gonna figure it out. So what am I gonna do? It's too expensive to do this, so maybe I'll try heroin. And if I'm trying heroin, I have no fucking idea what's in there. And a lot of times people are gonna sell me fentanyl because it's so strong, it's way cheaper than heroin, so they cut it together. Or I might just go to a Chinese lab and order 10 grams or whatever of fucking fentanyl directly from China, and then I have to use a scale to weigh it because like a 0.0007 of the gram or something is enough to light me up. And if I get 0.00014 of a gram, it'll kill me. Right? Like, so you're talking about a substance that is incredibly dangerous, and the reason why people are doing it is because they can't get the fucking pills. Okay, so the solution made the problem worse, and it's common sense. Okay, you want to end. Okay, the opioid crisis, is it really about people that want to do pills or about people dying from using opioids? Because in my opinion, it's about people fucking dying, right, or having their lives ruined. Okay, so it's counterintuitive, but the way that you are going to solve it is you increase availability of safer versions like Norcos, oxycodone. Okay, people will disagree with me on this. They'll be like, oh, well, there'll be way more addicts. Maybe not, right? But there sure as hell won't be anybody doing fucking fentanyl and then dying with 3 kids, right? The only reason people are doing that shit is because they can't afford regular stuff anymore because it's not available. Okay, so that's solution making the problem worse. Another perfect example. Okay, so you have a concussion problem in the NFL. So their solution isn't necessarily worse, but I'm going to, like, if you really analyze it, there are problems. You just have to think outside the box for your solution. So my opinion, take the helmets off. Take the helmets off. You want to stop having concussions? Take the fucking helmets off. Okay? Because the reason why people are having concussion problems is because people are smashing into each other with their fucking heads because they have helmets on. So, boom, brain trauma, right? Boom. Take the helmet, look at rugby. Does rugby have the same head trauma frequency as NFL football? No. Why is that? It's because they have less pads on and they don't wear fucking helmets. So they tackle each other in a way where they're not going to crush their fucking heads or break their necks, right? You're going to adjust to what your pads are and stuff, like what your protection is. So it's about objectively thinking through problems. And that is the thing that I do not see at all when we're talking about all of these issues that are in front of us. So basically, like, you have these movements that they say that they stand for one thing, right? And because they say, okay, well, we stand to fight against this, and this is a thing that everyone is against, okay? Well, what that does is it short circuits everyone's brain, right? So like people look at that and they're like, yeah, well, I'm against that too. And so, yeah, I support that. And you're like, well, are you going to look at what their proposed solution is? I mean, like, are you going to look at what they're proposing? Because just because you agree that that problem is the problem that they're stating they're trying to solve, what if they say like, yeah, I'm trying to solve pedophilia, and the way that we're going to solve that is we're going to bring a bunch of 7-year-olds to a prison that has a bunch of sex offenders in it, and we're going to let them spend the day there. And you're like, huh, I don't understand. They're like, well, we think that it'll be good to train out of the pedophiles. So we're going to let the kids sit in the jail cells, one-on-one with each pedophile, and the pedophile can talk to the kid about why, they did the things that they did. We'll have no cameras. They'll just be there by themselves. They'll talk it out. And we think that that's going to be a good solution, because then when these guys get out of jail, they'll have solved the problem for themselves. Like, because they'll have talked it out with the 6 and 7-year-olds, like by themselves. That's what they need. They need one-on-one time with children. That's how we solve pedophilia. Right? And you're like, what? And they're like, what, are you against don't you want to solve pedophilia? You're like, of course I want to solve fucking pedophilia. I just think that solution is going to make the problem worse. All you're going to do is just feed a bunch of kids to a bunch of pedophiles. What the fuck are you talking about? How is that going to solve pedophilia? Like, that is making the problem worse, obviously. Okay? So you want to solve racism, creating segregated dorms. How the fuck is that going to help solve racism? Like, what? That is literally the exact same thing. I want to solve pedophilia, so let's go feed 6-year-olds to pedophiles. Okay, cool. Well, I want to solve racism, so let's segregate the dorms. People of color only in this one, and whites only in this one. What? And what's crazy is smart people can make arguments in favor of this stuff. I just had this conversation with my mom. My mom is a fucking smart lady, and she thinks that it's a good idea. And I'm like, what are you? She's like, you have to understand their life experience. Like, they might be uncomfortable and they might feel like their voices are muted by people that are white. And I'm like, so your solution is to have them not interact with people that are white? Like, they're gonna have to interact with people who are white when they go into the workforce. So don't you think it would be better for them to learn that those fears are unfounded by having them live in the dorms with white people? What, like, it's like these short-term emotional solutions that make no sense. Like, that does not make sense. Okay, that does not make sense. I don't care. Like, there's no one who's ever going to convince me that segregating dorms is a good idea to fight racism. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that is so laughably obvious. It's unbelievable. It's like the same thing as so much of this stuff is just crazy to me. Another thing. We are behaving like a gang, okay? Like gang, not we. I am, like I said, I'm not on a side here. I just observe and go, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. Okay, so if you watch any of these gang documentaries, what you'll see is that a huge thing in gang culture, right? Like LA gang culture, is that they tag their fucking crew or their gang on the wall, right? And then another gang will come in and they'll cross them out and then they'll tag their gang over it. And they're like, oh man. And you're like, so what happens if someone comes and crosses you guys out? They're all, we kill somebody, man. And you're like, it seems ludicrous to you, right? You're like, kill someone because they fucking crossed out the name that you spray painted on a wall that you don't own? That is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard, right? So I'm thinking about that. And then I'm watching this thing that happened right down the street from me. Okay. So this happened in Martinez, California. It's fucking, I could be in Martinez in 7 minutes. Okay. Literally 7 minutes easy. I could be there in fucking 20 minutes on my skateboard. Electric, fast. Anyway, that's actually not accurate. Not 20 minutes. Anyway, but there was the Black Lives Matter mural that was in the street, and these Trump supporters came, and supposedly Trump supporters, who knows, could be just fucking propaganda. They hired some people to go to do this, and then they make it look like it's Trump supporters. Who knows? But the bottom line is people who stated that they were Trump supporters go and they're painting over it, right? And they're like, we're not having this shit in our town in Martinez. We're not having this shit. Black Lives Matter, it's a lie. It's a lie. You know, like either they really are like stereotypical ignorant fucking morons, or they're, you know, being paid to look that way. But either way, they are literally just like crossing out Black Lives Matter on the ground. And there's this huge, like gigantic, like backlash on it, obviously. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, how is this any different than fucking gang culture? Like it's words written on the ground. Like it's literally words written on the street. How is this going to affect anything, right? Words written on the ground. Now I get it. It's like, you know, you do it in every city and you're getting the message out and all that. But like these particular words are written on a small street in Martinez. Okay. This is not a big fucking town. And so people want to come in. Yeah. Now I question, how are they being filmed? That's why I literally don't believe anything I see on social media. I assume everything is engineered, like everything. Oh, these people weren't getting served in this restaurant because they were black. Oh, this guy said blah, 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 blah. I literally, like, no matter which side it paints as bad, I assume it's a lie. Even the video where, remember the church shooting where the guy came in with the gun and he shot the one guy and then the one guy drew on him and shot him in the head. The guy who was in all black and was going to, like, you know, in Texas, going to shoot. Like, I watched that, and I watched that video literally like 20 times because I was like, I bet this is right-wing people that are doing this as a demonstration of why the Second Amendment is important. And I'm a Second Amendment guy, but like, not because I'm a fucking Republican. I just have a lot of guns. But like, I look at everything like it is social engineering, because I genuinely believe that is what we're looking at. Like, I cannot stress that enough. I think that so much of this is international warfare against us, like where, you know, our enemies are literally like creating divides and then exacerbating them. So I don't even look at I don't look at Black Lives Matter as an enemy. I don't look at even like, you know, even people who are on the far right. Well, it's hard to get behind them, but everybody, like, I just look at everyone as confused and it being exacerbated by media and social media that is being controlled by our enemies, at least in a lot of cases. I mean, obviously, fuck, man. Even our mainstream media, they love fucking stoking this shit to the point where you got to look and you're like, is this at this point just irresponsible, or is this like bordering on criminal for them to lie like this? Like lie when you know what's going to happen as a result of this particular lie is going to be people losing their business and potentially dying, you know, in some cases. I mean, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, all guilty. I mean, like any mainstream media, all guilty. So anyway, that's probably enough of that. I think I've probably talked enough about not mixed martial arts for this particular video, but those are my thoughts for the day. If you like the channel, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's go.